I was so furious about it, and it sort of lurked for many years. And I think, when all the subject about domestic abuse came up, and suddenly you hear stories.
When Camilla's attempts to take control of King Charles during key events seemed to be working, Prince William stepped in and made her regret her decision. It's no secret that from the moment Camilla stepped fully into her role within the royal household, many people never truly accepted her. While the palace worked hard to present unity and stability, maintaining a polished front for the nation they were born to lead, tensions quietly simmered beneath the surface. For a long time, those tensions were carefully managed, even ignored. But everything changed when Camilla struck a nerve that Prince William simply could not overlook. Curious to know what crossed the line? Keep watching. From the day Prince Charles became King Charles in 2023, a subtle but unmistakable power shift began to take shape inside the monarchy. Behind closed doors, sources claim Camilla became more confident, increasingly willing to assert her influence in ways that hadn't been seen before. What once appeared to be gentle support slowly began to resemble control, sparking quiet concern among senior royals. At first, these moves were dismissed as growing pains of a new reign, but as months passed, the tension grew harder to contain, especially for Prince William, who is said to be deeply protective of the monarchy's future and public image. All of this began to show during last year's Trooping the Colour event. You see, while the world knows Trooping the Colour as a yearly event held in London at Horse Guards Parade, it is far more than just another royal gathering. The ceremony is meant to mark the monarch's official birthday, a carefully choreographed display of military precision, royal tradition, and national pride that has followed a near unchanged script for centuries. It is one of the few moments each year when the monarchy presents itself in full ceremonial form, measured, predictable, and steeped in symbolism. Traditionally, the day unfolds with almost clockwork familiarity. Thousands gather along the mall as regiments of the household division march in perfect formation, dressed in scarlet tunics and bearskin hats. Massed military bands fill the air with music as the sovereign arrives to inspect the troops. In years past, this arrival was often on horseback, a striking image meant to echo the monarchy's historic role as both ceremonial and military leader. Even when the monarch travels by carriage, the moment is carefully framed to preserve continuity with the past. After the inspection, the troops march past in slow and quick time, the regiment's color, its ceremonial flag, being trooped down the ranks, a tradition that dates back to when such flags were essential on the battlefield. The parade concludes with the royal procession back to Buckingham Palace, where the royal family gathers on the balcony to watch the Royal Air Force fly past. The message is always the same: stability, continuity, and quiet confidence. That is why June 14, 2025 stood out so sharply. From the very beginning, it was clear this year's Trooping the Colour was not unfolding the way the public had come to expect. Instead of the familiar image of the monarch mounted on horseback, King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla arrived and departed by carriage, a visible departure from the more traditional presentation. While practical considerations were widely assumed, the change was impossible to miss. For many watching, it subtly altered the tone of the ceremony, replacing martial symbolism with something noticeably more restrained. But that was only the beginning. As the parade progressed, viewers noticed another unexpected detail: members of the royal party wearing black armbands. Shortly afterward, the ceremony paused for a minute's silence, observed in solemn unison. The tribute was intended to honor victims of a recent tragedy, a gesture of respect and empathy that on its own was undeniably dignified. Yet within the context of Trooping the Colour, it was highly unusual. This event is, by design, a celebration, It is carefully structured to remove current affairs, political tensions, and even national grief. Its purpose has always been to project reassurance and continuity, offering the public a moment of pageantry untouched by the turmoil of everyday life. Interruptions, especially solemn ones, are rare, and when they do occur, they are often remembered for decades. The contrast was striking. Almost immediately, commentators and royal watchers began to take notice. News outlets quickly dissected every detail, from the altered arrival to the somber pause in proceedings. Headlines began to roll in, and not all of them were flattering. One particularly sharp tabloid headline read, "Royal family turns, trooping the color into a funeral parade." Others were no less cutting, accusing the palace of draining the celebration of its purpose and replacing tradition with tone-deaf symbolism. As commentators dug deeper, speculation turned into finger-pointing. Royal correspondents began asking who had pushed for such visible departures from protocol. According to several reports and insider commentary, one name surfaced again and again: Queen Camilla. While no official confirmation was ever given, critics claimed that her growing influence appeared to coincide with the changes that had unsettled so many observers. From that moment on, a pattern started to emerge. Just 2 months later, during another major royal engagement, observers noticed more quiet but noticeable changes. This time, it wasn't a grand parade, but a formal public appearance meant to project unity and calm. Yet once again, the usual order seemed off. Traditionally, senior royals follow a clear hierarchy during these events: who arrives first, who stands where, and who speaks all carry meaning. But on this occasion, viewers noticed that Queen Camilla appeared more front and center than expected, while others were placed further back. Small details stood out: altered seating arrangements, changes in procession order, and a noticeable shift in who took the lead during key moments. To some, these were harmless adjustments. To others, they felt deliberate. Commentators began to ask why long-standing customs were being quietly rewritten. Social media buzzed with claims that the monarchy was starting to look less balanced, less predictable. Critics argued that these changes risked confusing the public about roles within the royal family, especially at a time when clarity mattered most. For Prince William, these were no longer isolated incidents. What had once seemed like coincidence now felt like a direction. Each event added another piece to the puzzle, building tension behind palace walls. And then, the breaking point came. During December 2025, it began to feel as though Queen Camilla had stepped in with renewed force behind palace doors. The annual Christmas Carol service, traditionally hosted by Catherine, Princess of Wales, was approaching, and those involved in planning sensed a sudden shift in tone. According to palace sources, the change did not happen quietly. 3 days before the service, one evening after most staff had retired, Camilla walked into King Charles's private study. Charles looked up from his papers, visibly surprised. "Camilla?" he said. "Is everything all right?" She closed the door behind her and didn't sit down. "We need to talk," she replied. "About the Christmas service." Charles sighed lightly. "Catherine has handled it well for years. The arrangements are already in place." "That's exactly the problem," Camilla said firmly. "I'm the queen now, Charles. I represent the mother of this royal house. Letting Catherine continue to lead such a central family event sends the wrong message." Charles frowned. "It's not about messages. It's about continuity. People respond well to her." "And what does that say about me?" Camilla asked. "That I'm decorative? That I'm not capable of my office? I cannot stand quietly while another woman represents the heart of this family." There was a long pause. Charles leaned back in his chair. "You're asking for a change days before the event," he said carefully. "That will cause tension." "There's already tension," Camilla replied. This is about respect." They spoke for over an hour. Charles pushed back at first, arguing tradition and public perception. Camilla countered every point. Outside Buckingham Palace, grief and disbelief mingled in the air. Thousands gathered, standing shoulder to shoulder in the chill of a gray afternoon, clutching flowers, candles, and phones that streamed the moment again and again. Some prayed, quietly. Others simply stared at the palace windows. For months, there had been whispers. King Charles, diagnosed with cancer in early 2024, had continued to fulfill his duties, attending meetings, greeting ambassadors, and maintaining the public calm that defined his reign. The words incurable and cherishing echoed across time zones, two words that reshaped how the world saw their monarch. Now drawn behind velvet curtains. Across oceans, headlines erupted. News anchors' tones shifted from speculation to sorrow, hoping for movement, a shadow, anything. Reporters lined the mall like sentinels, cameras fixed on the balcony that had seen so many royal waves for her sons that had held firm for nearly 3 decades. Her sacrifice had been strategic, not helpless. But explaining that to Harry, who had spent years building a narrative of institutional cruelty, if Harry weaponized these files without understanding their full context, the damage would be irreversible. Not just to the institution, not just to the family, but to Diana's legacy. Because the files, read carefully, did not show a woman defeated. They showed a woman making impossible choices with limited power, trying to protect her children in the only ways available to her. Diana had not been crushed by the institution. She had negotiated with it, accepted its terms when necessary, and extracted protections. The institution survived because your mother understood duty. She understood sacrifice, and she chose to protect what mattered most. William had never fully grasped what Anne meant until this moment. Fighting within constraints, yes, but fighting nonetheless. Princess Anne's words echoed in William's mind, something she had said to him years ago during another family crisis. She wasn't just a victim, William continued, his voice softer now. She was smarter than that. She understood the game better than anyone, and she played it the only way she could. If you make her just a victim with no agency, you erase what she actually did. You erase her intelligence, her strategy, her maternal instinct to fight for us in the only ways she could. That hit something. William could hear it in the sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line, in the way Harry went completely silent. It was handwritten on Kensington Palace stationery, addressed to her solicitor, outlining her priorities as divorce negotiations began. As the full weight of her words settled over him. "I need 3 things protected," Diana had written in her neat, careful script. William read it once, then again, his vision blurring slightly. William set down his tea, his hands perfectly steady despite the adrenaline now flooding his system. He had known this moment was coming. Palace lawyers had warned him repeatedly over the past 2 years that the outcome was uncertain, that the courts might rule against keeping the documents sealed. But knowing something intellectually and experiencing it emotionally were entirely different things. "Send me everything," William said. William nodded, unable to speak. Catherine pulled a chair beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched, providing the physical anchor he desperately needed. "Whatever is in those files," she said quietly. "Your mother loved you. That was never in question." And he would use these documents to validate every accusation he had made about the institution over the past 5 years. Unless someone stopped him, unless someone explained the full context before the narrative hardened into something that would dishonor what Diana had actually done. By 7:30 a.m., the media coverage had already begun. The actual documents, not just the media spin? "I will," Harry replied, and William could hear the edge creeping into his voice. I'm sure they'll confirm everything I've already said about the institution." William closed his eyes briefly, steadying himself. Another announcement confirmed that state visits and large receptions would be moved elsewhere. Now, as Queen, her list was widened to reflect trust in her role and permanence within the system. The way it was shown to the public stressed that she was not just filling empty spots, but adding to work she had already done. Some charities that kept or gained her support made sure to thank her. These included groups for nursing, literacy, and volunteer work, areas she had long supported. For Camilla, this was both steady progress and an expansion. As Duchess of Cornwall, she had built a profile around reading and support for victims of domestic abuse. The Queen's Nursing Institute also voiced its gratitude, pointing to the importance of her link. These statements showed that the review was not only about losses, but also about gains. When Prince William stepped before the cameras, his voice was steady, but the world could feel the weight pressing behind it. Every word seemed to carry the full burden of the crown, the family and the nation watching from every corner of the globe. Charles immediately ascended the throne, becoming King Charles III. His accession marked the end of the longest apprenticeship in British royal history. He was a man stepping fully into the role he had been preparing for his entire life. Before the health challenges that would later make headlines, King Charles had shown no signs of serious illness. Many saw him as a bridge between eras, the respectful son who upheld his mother's legacy, and the reform-minded monarch who wanted to modernize the crown's connection with the public. The transition to kingship was calm, but heavy with emotion. The new king promised continuity and duty, yet there was also a sense of determination in his tone. Every word seemed to carry the full burden of the crown, the family and the nation watching from every corner of the globe. When Prince William stepped before the cameras, his voice was steady, but the world could feel the weight pressing behind it. It was about a man, frail and mortal, beneath the weight of his crown. The day that began with calm dignity had ended in trembling uncertainty. But adding to work she had already done. Some charities that kept or gained her support made sure to thank her. The way it was shown to the public stressed that she was not just filling empty spots. Now, as Queen, her list was widened to reflect trust in her role and permanence within the system. Another announcement confirmed that state visits and large receptions would be moved elsewhere. For Camilla, this was both steady progress and an expansion. As Duchess of Cornwall, she had built a profile around reading and support for victims of domestic abuse. These included groups for nursing, literacy, and volunteer work, areas she had long supported. Reports spoke of retirements and handovers. All of these decisions were meant to improve the system. The Duke of Kent's step back was part of a larger pattern of older royals doing less. Stay with us, because what we're about to uncover about Camilla might just leave you speechless. One of the most surprising impacts? Queen Camilla herself, who has reportedly been pushed to the edge by recent developments, made things more tense. Some organizations were allowed to keep Camilla's support, while others lost it. People quickly noticed a pattern. Most of the groups she continued to support were related to the arts, books, or culture, and that she's only filling in until the younger royals fully take over. The review of royal patronages, people remember her as strong. Now many compare Camilla to that image and also to the younger royals, like William and Catherine, who seem active and full of life. Beside them, Camilla looks older and less confident. This makes some people think her role won't last long. One of her patron groups, Prospect Hospice, was forced to close shops because of money troubles. No royal can guarantee a charity's survival, but when this happens, it raises doubt about how much help her backing really gives. Camilla's health is also closely watched. Reports of chest infections, pneumonia, or even shaky hands at events have been shown widely in the media. These short moments are often shown and talked about as if they mean something big. A single photo or video can make a small issue seem much worse. Comparing the present to the past makes this feeling stronger. Queen Elizabeth ruled for 70 years and was known for being steady and always around. Has also given more space for other younger members of the family to be seen. Princess Beatrice, though not a working royal, has been more present at state events since Harry and Meghan stepped away. Her sister, Princess Eugenie, is closer and more open than in earlier times, but still shaped by the duties their children will one day have to take on. The smaller circle of working royals, that role began to change more clearly with his retirement from important posts. His work was long and loyal, though it did not bring the same spotlight as the younger or more central royals. This gave him a kind of steady dignity, but it also meant many people knew little about him beyond his title.
Was seated in his private office, reviewing documents linked to Queen Elizabeth II's estate. It was meant to be a routine legal review, another step in the long, careful process of settling a monarch's private affairs. Nothing about the morning suggested drama, yet hidden within the orderly paperwork, what King Charles discovered went far beyond a simple financial gift. The hidden clause in Queen Elizabeth's will was not written as a blank check or a gesture of indulgence. While it set aside an estimated £20 million for Prince Harry, the Queen also expressed a clear hope that Archie and Lilibet would spend meaningful time in the United Kingdom as they grew older. She did not demand permanent residence or public exposure. Rather, she wanted them to know their roots. With something even more powerful than money or conditions, a private letter, handwritten by Queen Elizabeth herself and addressed directly to her son, King Charles. Unlike the formal language of the will, this letter carried the unmistakable warmth of a mother and grandmother, speaking from the heart. It acknowledged, without excuses or blame, the deep fractures that had formed within the family. What many do not understand was why William took this decision. To understand this, let's go back to autumn 2024. According to palace sources, everyday life inside Kensington Palace back then felt like a storm. What had once seemed like isolated fights now felt like a raging battle. Patterns were forming, and people inside the palace could no longer ignore them. First, it was about Catherine. Her major initiatives kept running into the same problem. Others said their attacks were defense or advocacy in the interest of Harry and Meghan. The result was the same. Catherine became a target whenever Sussex stories related to Sussex surfaced. William saw the situation clearly. Catherine was not a side figure. She was central to the future of the monarchy. Anything that weakened her public role weakened the institution itself.
The risk of being seen as slowing down makes this worse. For decades, the royal family built its image on duty without pause. Queen Elizabeth rarely canceled her public work, even in her later years. Camilla's breaks, though normal for her age and health, do not match that memory. Every time she steps back, the press and public see it as decline. The story is not just about her, but about an aging monarchy.
There were no accusations, just a clear pattern laid out in front of him. William did not need convincing for long. He had grown up under press pressure. Her office compiled timelines, media data, and engagement metrics. When she showed the material to William, it was clear and factual.
Queen, wife, and carer put stress on her body and mind. Balancing these roles leaves little room for rest. Small slips in speeches or diary changes then become headlines. Things that in private life would be forgiven are turned into questions about her ability to cope. The stress of such constant judgment can itself cause more mistakes. The groups who want the monarchy removed use this to their advantage. Campaigners, this weakens her importance and makes her seem like someone just helping the transition. Rather, in their big house in Montecito, California, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were watching what was happening with Prince Andrew. They felt both curious and worried. Many people said that they were surprised by how quickly King Charles took action against his brother. If the king could take away everything from Andrew, even the title he was born with, what did that mean for Harry and Meghan's own royal titles?
Was a revelation that would ripple through the royal household. As Charles turned another page, he came across a sealed and unfamiliar section of the will. It stood out immediately. This was not part of the estate plan he believed he knew so well. The clause was clear, deliberate, and deeply specific, and it centered on Prince Harry. The clause was not simply about money or property. It carried intention, expectation, and a quiet message about family, responsibility, and unfinished bonds. It forced Charles to confront not only his role as king, but also his role. Queen Elizabeth's voice, long silent, had spoken again, guiding, mating, and shaping the future of the monarchy from beyond the grave. King Charles has uncovered a hidden clause in his mother's will. As he read his mother's words, it became clear that Queen Elizabeth had made one final, thoughtful intervention in a family story she knew remained unresolved. It was about how far that action should go. The Sussex identity, especially as a public brand tied to Meghan, kept colliding with the crown. By late autumn, internal reports showed real strain. Communication staff were spending nearly a third more time on Sussex-related matters than the year before. Legal consultations had doubled since spring. For him, this crossed from personal frustration into strategic risk. Behind closed doors, royal advisors told William,
This has meant long days moving from one event to another, many of which last hours and involve travel, standing, and constant meeting of people, but a heavy routine. From the moment she became queen consort beside King Charles, her calendar filled quickly with visits, speeches, and public duties that demanded consistency. With the king now receiving cancer treatment, the pressure on her to take on even more has grown.
Leadership, like motherhood, sometimes requires leaving doors open, even when walking through them feels difficult. In her final lines, Elizabeth reminded her son of the crown's enduring strength. The Queen understood that reconciliation could not be demanded, yet she could set the stage, providing carefully designed conditions that encouraged her family to come together. Anne's private residence, her sanctuary, the one place where she answers to no one. This wasn't an official royal statement. This wasn't vetted by palace communications teams. This was Anne speaking as herself. Consequences be damned. And what she revealed was nothing short of devastating, and mockery that followed. Now, here's what nobody knew at the time. Here's what Princess Anne has now revealed. While Andrew was drowning in public humiliation, while he was isolated and desperate, someone reached out to him. Someone unexpected. As the meaning settled in, Charles understood that his mother had left him more than a crown and a legacy. She had left him a challenge. The clause was not simply about money or property. It carried intention, expectation, and a quiet message about family, responsibility, and/or a legal afterthought. The clause had been carefully written and intentionally concealed, designed to emerge only at the right time. News of the discovery spread quietly but swiftly through the palace, sending shockwaves behind closed doors. For King Charles, the impact went far beyond law and procedure. Throughout her reign, she was known for patience, strategy, and a deep understanding of timing. This hidden clause reflected all of that. It was not written in haste or emotion, but with care.
Do you think Camilla's attempt to assert control over the royal family and King Charles will succeed in the future? And how do you see William's involvement in this matter? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.